Welcome to 305 Cast, the Arsenal Miami podcast. I'm your host, John, coming to you from Miami, Florida. This was not as fun as the recent games we've had. I think we can all agree that obviously losing 1-0 away to Aston Villa is not as good as beating City 2-0 at Wembley or, beating Liverpool or any of that. Clearly, those are more ideal for us. But listen, you can't control everything, and you got to really look at it in context of where we were and what we were doing with our season and what we have to play for going forward. And look at what Aston Villa has to play for. They were fighting for their lives to avoid relegation. This is a team where at the end of it, Grealish just fell to the floor, exasperated, and you understood that they were fighting for their Premier League lives. We absolutely weren't. We were really in a position where, we don't want to get injured. We don't want to overexert ourselves. We've played Leicester, Spurs, Liverpool, City. We are knackered, absolutely, and it definitely looked that way. So it's really one of those kind of cases where you sit back and look at it in the broad totality of what's going on in the Premier League and what they're fighting for, what we're fighting for, and what we have to look forward to. And an FA Cup final just trumps all of that. So, yeah, it made sense that we lined up in a certain way, that Eddie was on the right over there, and that we had some players that were rested. Xhaka was rested. Bellerin was rested. Luiz was even taken off. It was clear kind of where we were going and what we have to play for. It was extremely important to make sure that we had fresh legs because we still have another match coming up against another team that's battling relegation in Watford. So those are all important, physical, difficult matches where the teams that we're playing have everything to play for, and we don't as much. And you got to stay fit. You got to stay fit. You can't get injured for this. You also got to make sure it's a weird balance. It's a weird balance for Arteta because you also got to make sure that you don't lose too much momentum. We had a lot coming into this game. He had to really make sure that even though his players might not get a result here, that they were psychologically prepared for it and psychologically prepared for an inevitable bounce back that would be need to make going into the FA Cup final. Notwithstanding that, I'd like to introduce my guest with no further ado. You all know him from a Burkham Wonderland podcast. It is Danny. They have been doing some great stuff for a very long time. That podcast has been around since 2013. That's 7 years now. Mine started in 2015, which is half a decade. And I remember one of the reasons why I started podcasting was because I used to listen to theirs, them and Arsblog and all of that fun stuff. So they were a huge influence on this particular podcast, so it's absolutely an honor to have him on here, and it was an absolute pleasure to talk to him. We have a great conversation, everything from the match to looking forward to looking at Chelsea and their matches coming up, and we have this quite lengthy, good discussion about Ozil and what's going on, because it's been a while since we've brought up Ozil, anyone really. It's kind of gone under the radar. Sure, he gets brought up by the journalists to Arteta and stuff, but when you look at this kind of a game, which really didn't mean anything for us, it really raises the question, why didn't Ozil play? This would have been a perfect one for him. Is it injury? Is it whatever? So we kind of just give our little tinfoil hat theories and discuss it a little bit. It's a wonderful conversation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, Danny. Hey, Danny, how's it going?
It is terrible, John. How are you?
Oh, it's I don't really know what I expected, but that certainly, it's one of those things where you don't expect much, but you're still disappointed.
I expected nothing, and I was disappointed.
Yeah, exactly.
There is an upside to it, though, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I was trying to think of one, but I guess no one got injured. That's an upside.
No, I like Villa, and I hate Watford, and Troy Deeney and his cojones is. So Villa, by winning that game, have jumped above them from 18th position to 17th. Watford are now in the relegation zone, and we play Watford on Sunday. And we're going to relegate them.
What if they beat us, though? Doesn't that...
John, don't ruin a fairy tale.
All right, you're right. I'm sorry. We're gonna win. We're gonna win that one, and we're gonna watch Troy Deeney.
That's it. Watch him cry.
All right. So there are silver linings to it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And no one got injured, which is good. And look, Arteta seemed to be happy at the end of the match. He well, not happy, per se, but at the end, he ended up saying, he said, emotionally and physically, it's been a very demanding week, but I saw a team who wanted to fight until the end. I'm not disappointed about the attitude. I know where we are in certain areas and where we need to improve more. We will get that. So what do you think by that?
Well, he has. He's chucked a couple of players in that, sometimes if you've got a naughty dog and you're not sure whether to kick the dog outside or not because it keeps pooing on the carpet, well, if you let it back in again, it poos on the carpet, and you go, right, dog, you're a bad dog, you're getting in the garden, dog. We've seen tonight that Torreira has been a bad dog, Kolasinac was another bad dog, and that we don't play Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Nketiah up front together again. They're all the bad dogs. So that's what we've seen from tonight. So that's what we've learned. That when I saw that lineup at the front three, I thought, hold on, how's that going to work?
Right.
It didn't. That's how it worked. It didn't.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, like, is this going to be like three at the front with Eddie on the right, and then what the heck's going on here? So basically, in this analogy, Torreira and Kolasinac just pooed on the carpet. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying.
That's it. Yeah, and what have we learned from tonight? Like Arteta was saying, well, we've learned that the league isn't important to us anymore. With a couple of results happened yesterday, I don't think we could finish above 7th position. Now we can't finish above 8th. It really doesn't matter, does it? I mean, we've had such a magnificent week by smashing the two best teams in British football for the last 5 or 6 seasons easily, and we've beaten both of those, and no one thought we would have beaten both of those. And that old thing that if you could turn back the clock and say, look, you're going to beat Man City, you're going to beat Liverpool, you're going to lose at Villa, I don't know any Arsenal fans that go, oh, no, I'm not having that, that's not acceptable.
Right. I don't think anyone cares, especially, I think the fact that we have an FA Cup final coming up kind of makes it hard to care about losing to Villa right now, especially after we just beat City.
True. And sadly, that was I'm just looking at the league table here. Villa are half decent at home. That was their 7th league win at home this season. We're only on 9, so they're a half decent team. We saw some real good stuff from Jack Grealish. We saw one of my favourite younger Arsenal academy players, Henry Lansbury, who I really hoped was going to go on and have a great career for Arsenal. We saw him get a minute and a half at the end, so it's worth it just for that.
Grealish is quite good, isn't he?
Oh, he's not too shonky on that left hand. I remember at one point in the second half, we think Eddie's fast. Grealish ran away from Eddie like Eddie was pulling a bus behind him, and Grealish had the ball. You thought, Grealish had the ball. You thought, wow, that bloke's got something special. Lots of it.
Well, I feel like with the calves that he has, it's it's almost impossible not to be quick. I think it would be a waste.
Yeah, it would be, and with that hair, and he's got the trendy hair. He's got the good looks. He's got everything. He's he's going to be the modern day Beckham. That's what he is. He's going to have a different hairstyle every season, and good looking chap that he is. I'm not jealous at all.
He does have some nice hair as well, but let's not fawn over Grealish too much. Although I bet a lot of it is justified. He did give Eddie a very difficult time, and I wonder how much of it was the fact that he's just quicker than him, and how much of it is the fact that Eddie just hasn't played in a while. I mean, he got a red card, so this is his first match back since the ban. Really? Yeah. He didn't play? No, this is his first match. Did he come on in the FA Cup? I don't think he did.
No, he wasn't allowed.
He couldn't. He wasn't allowed to, right?
Yeah, he got a ban. Was it a 3-game ban? I'm sure it was a 3-game.
Yeah, I think it was a straight red, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been. Well, especially if that one on Trent Alexander-Arnold wasn't a red card, this one shouldn't have been.
But Trent isn't that kind of player, though, is he? Like they always say.
Yeah, maybe if Eddie was more of a first-team player, I don't even know. It's kind of ridiculous trying to justify how the refs approach situations like that anymore.
You look at any kind of tackle in frame-by-frame slow motion, you could make the most innocent of mistimed tackles look like something they intended to do. So that's something they need to have a look at and sort out, because that's so annoying.
To be fair, though, and this is kind of what I was getting at a while back, I think on Tom's podcast, is that was such a weird one on Saka, Trent's challenge on Saka, because it looked even worse in real time. Yeah, and it still looked bad in slow motion, but look. That's nothing new. He should have been playing. I think we all agree on that. But I'm wondering how much of the inability to keep up with Grealish was really on the fact that really based off of the fact that Eddie is not as good, which obviously he's a talented player, or how much of it is he hasn't played in a while.
And also, if Eddie's running all that way back there, he's going to be taking over from the slot on the field where Suarez and Holding should have been. Was Suarez even playing at that point? I know he went off, but whoever should be covering on the right hand side of our defence, he would have been getting in their way. And then if we're playing the quick counter attack football, and he's back down at the right back position, people are going to go, "Well, what are you doing back there, Eddie? You should be on near the halfway line. That's your position, son. Get back or get up."
Yeah, and it was interesting. Look, I think you can look at that first goal, especially you mentioned Suarez, and I think there was a little bit of an eye at him at that goal. What do you make of the first of the first and I guess only goal?
Trezeguet's goal.
I'm sorry?
Did you say Trezeguet's goal? What did I think of it?
Yeah. It ended up being the only goal.
Yeah, he's a half decent player. It's like his namesake, the old was it David Trezeguet, the Juventus legend, and he was French, wasn't he? I think he was French. Yeah. Yeah,
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I mean, the ball came in from the left-hand side, and we did a couple. I mean, later on, it was almost identical to the one that I think Aubameyang put across the edge of the box, and all of our players missed, and Lacazette went running after. Put it across the front of our defence. No one cleared it. From the right-hand side, Trezeguet took a hell of a whack at it and spanked it in the bottom corner, which was when they're coming in at that kind of speed, and when Martinez has got a few defenders standing in front of him. I've only seen the goal once because at halftime, that's right, at halftime, I went and made a drink, and I just thought, oh God, do I really have to watch the second half of this? But brilliantly, a really good amount of play. They were a decent attacking side. Definitely, when you got Grealish on the left-hand side, and you've got Trezeguet and the other bloke who started up front, whose name I can't remember. When you've got all of those lot doing that, and then Trezeguet there. I mean, they said before the game that Trezeguet had already got a couple of goals, or was their top goal scorer in the last few games for a couple of goals. And you thought, well, I mean, looking at the stats for the game, Trezeguet got an 8. And Grealish got an 8 as well. And I think that they were the two, not only because it says here that they got an 8, but they were the two that looked absolutely brilliant for Villa. And good, well taken goal. Can't deny him that. It wasn't like it was a fluky goal. It was something you look back and go, wow, yeah, he made the most of that and did well.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite a strike, and it was interesting. You mentioned how it was kind of analogous or reminiscent of Aubameyang's goal. I thought that they also had a great chance later on. That was almost a picture-perfect copy of Aubameyang's goal against City, where he put it through Ederson's legs. But the difference is, obviously, it was taken just wide. It was really close. They definitely had, and it was coming off the left. It was almost an identical goal, but for the fact that there was no chip over the defender into the running space. But look, I guess you really can't get upset about the goal that they did score. I would have been more upset about that one where the defender was able to push off Holding, or when the attacker was able to push off. Who was that on the left that almost scored that one? I forget who it was, but
for them, I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
that just shut. The ball went behind. He basically got a couple steps ahead of Holding, and then tried to slot it to the right corner near the post.
Yeah,
extremely similar, almost in the exact location that Aubameyang was when he scored through the legs of Ederson, except he went for the post and just missed it.
That would have been even more annoying.
Oh, it would have been terrible. It was almost a carbon copy of Aubameyang's goal, but for the fact that he didn't finish it or try to put it through Martinez's legs.
I do remember that bit. They came breaking down the left-hand side, didn't they? Put it right across the front of the goalie and missed the far right-hand post by inches. If it had been another foot inwards, that would have gone, well, maybe Martinez would have got it, because Martinez has been fantastic. I love the way Martinez grabs the ball as if it's like a kid at Christmas that doesn't want to let go of his favourite present. I've got it and no one's having it. And that's Martinez has been fantastic. But yeah, the cover that you were getting, so if they had come down, Holding was, like you were saying, Holding was on our right side of our 3 defenders, so it came down Holding's right-hand side and cut in across the front or the side of him and put it across there. But if you've just beaten those 2 teams, and if you know you're at an FA Cup final, you have kind of got your flip-flops on and thinking about the beach, aren't you? And that's got to be part of the explanation for tonight.
And it's perfect segue into what my next question was going to be. And now all of these performances that we're seeing on the pitch today, and the result, obviously, how much of it is attributable to the fact that we are ready just to play an FA Cup final? I'm sure a lot of players are worried about maybe being injured and not being able to be selected. A lot of them are probably just completely exhausted, which was kind of reflected in Arteta's post-match statement. Do you think that played a big role, or do you think that we really should take a critical eye at some of the performances today?
I mean, yeah, kind of. But if you look at the fact in 14 days, we've played Leicester, Spurs, Liverpool, Man City. And out of that, we've got a point against Leicester. We've got 3 points against Liverpool. We've beaten City to get to the cup final. And then 3 days after that, we're going all the way up north to go, well, Midlands to go and play against Aston Villa. You got to think, well, if the collapse was going to come at any point, let it come now. Don't let it come in any of the 2 games before that. Would have been nice if we didn't collapse a little bit against Spurs, but I think that was mainly a kind of tactical issue and Spurs being fluky. But you can't play all of these games. You've seen like Man City when they smashed Liverpool. Everybody is having their off days, and I mean we've always struggled against Watford. Man City today went and beat Watford 5-0. It's I'll give the analogy a little while ago for anybody who watches Italian football. The last day of Serie A is always it's a bun fight. It's like New Year's Eve. It's crazy. You'll get 7-5s, 5-alls, things like that. And the Premier League has been like that for the last couple of weeks. So I'm just grateful that we have fallen apart at a game that was completely pointless, because even if we beat Villa and even if we beat Watford, it's going to make no difference to our season because we have put all of our eggs in the FA Cup final. Box, bin, bag, basket.
All the above.
Yeah, we spread our eggs out and put them all in one place. So I don't care. It really doesn't. Are you annoyed about it?
No, I'm not annoyed by it. So I think we're on the same page there. It was interesting because I was talking to my friend who's a United fan, and he was obviously giving me a hard time for it. To which I quickly put him in his place about where what he's going to be doing to be watching this FA Cup final.
Yeah.
I basically said, like, look, this game meant nothing to us and everything for them, right?
Yeah.
This is a team that's battling relegation. These points were absolutely critical to them. You saw Jack Grealish just fall to the ground when the full-time whistle happened. It obviously meant a lot to them. And his retort was actually kind of clever. It was, well, what about Liverpool? They had nothing to play, and you guys said everything. And I said, well, not really. I don't think Aston Villa is going to be too upset that that we won and that we didn't have anything to play for, right? Versus Liverpool, who had, I think, had more to play for than we did in this match. Obviously, I think Liverpool might have wanted to play for that 100 points, but at the end of the day, they already won the league. They were probably still hungover. Look, my point is that I'm agreeing with you. I don't think that there was much to be played for on our part. And in fact, there was a lot to be said about not playing that hard against this team because there's not much there, and you want to be selectable, right, in the FA Cup final. So, do you think that's part of it? That I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you think that some of the performances we saw was a result of the fact that players maybe were not as willing to go into challenges or to go as hard as they could for fear of getting injured and missing out in the FA Cup final? And do you think that that's something, as a second part of the question, that's going to bleed into the game against Watford as well? We're going to see a similar, maybe what you could call lethargic reserve performance.
I think you've hit on 2 points there. The first one being Aston Villa fighting for their lives. Before I said Man City beat them Watford 5-0, it's 4-0. So you look at the beginning of the day, Watford had a goal difference of -23. Villa had a goal difference of -27. After the Watford game, they're now on -27, the same as Villa. Villa have gone, well, they've just scored 4 goals against them, and now Villa are on -26. So Villa were 5 goals worse off, and now they're 1 better off than Watford, and they are playing for their lives. That has got to be 75% of what today's issue was. And coming to the second part of it, yeah, I think it is. And it could well be on Sunday that, are you going to, because the FA Cup final is going to be on the 1st of August, which is going to be Saturday. The 1st of August. So we have got 6 days. Well, between now and Sunday and Saturday, we've got 3 days break. Then it's Saturday. Then Sunday. So there's going to be less than a week into the FA Cup final. So maybe you have got a point with, is it going to happen again against Watford? Because we saw Mustafi out for the season with his injury, when that's very unlucky for him. Someone who's really played, he's become a new player. And maybe, like you were saying, maybe some of the players are thinking, good, I'd like taking off David Luiz. David Luiz came off after, how long ago into the game was it? He came off, that's Douglas Luiz, wrong player. David Luiz came off after an hour. I mean, how many times has he done that this season? He's never done that.
Well, unless he got a red card.
Yeah, he's done that about 5 times this season. Then. Yeah, so I mean, the fact that you see players coming off and Torreira coming off at half-time. I'm coming on at half-time for Xhaka. So normally Xhaka and Luiz would have played the entire game. So I think all these little things are all building up to Arteta knows that he doesn't want the players to get injured because he needs them for the FA Cup final. Our players, again, why would they care about going to Villa and maybe a little bit about Watford? Because they're thinking, well, I've got a chance of playing in the FA Cup final here, and this FA Cup final will get Arsenal into Europe next season. And as much as I don't like the Europa League, all these players are going to be going. They'll be getting win bonuses. They'll be playing in the Europa League, which then, if you do well in there, that could get us into the Champions League, another route into there. So many different factors, but I would say 75% of it, Villa were really knew that this was their only chance to make sure that they finish above Watford. Because at the weekend, I'm just looking at the fixtures here. Watford are away at us, and Villa go to West Ham. Now, West Ham are also fighting, and West Ham, because they've got 13 goal difference better than those two. And there's no way Villa are going to go there and beat them 8-0 to make up that 13 goal difference.
No chance.
But I wouldn't be, if you're Villa, you're looking at an away trip to West Ham. You can't rely on that to stop you getting relegated. They're at home tonight, and they've had a good rest, and so the other 25% is going to be a little bit of the other two things. Don't want to get injured, and no one really cared, possibly. I doubt a player ever goes out to play and goes, actually, there's been a few that have gone out and said, I don't care. Wasn't there one who said, if you played me, I'm going to score an own goal or something? There was one player who said that, but there's been a few. We've seen Ozil for the last 2 seasons, hasn't really cared, has he?
No. Well, honestly, we don't really know what the heck he cares or doesn't care about, or what anyone says. That's such a weird conundrum, that whole situation.
I've been into football since the early 80s. I have never, ever seen this from a player where your star player, normally they do it because they want to move, but your star player not getting a game, no one's really talking about a move. He's not being used. He's not injured, constantly making excuses. That's a podcast on its own, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't really know what the basis is. I think my theory, and I've mentioned this, I don't know if I haven't mentioned on here, so here it is. I think he's just done with football. I think he's done. I think it started with that. It started with the whole political thing that was going on in Turkey. Then it was maybe crystallized a bit in the World Cup after that political stuff in Turkey bled into his life in Germany.
Because he was the golden boy of German football, wasn't he?
And then he became the scapegoat of German football after the World Cup, and it was linked with this kind of xenophobia that was going on in Germany and his connections in whether or not you agree with that is a different story, but the reality is that that's what he was facing criticism for. And it was almost as if, because I'm a Germany fan, and it was really ruthless against Ozil about pretty much almost like it was his fault that they had such a bad World Cup campaign, which means a lot considering they were the defending champions, right? Yeah. So a lot went into that, and then perhaps some stuff going. And then he gets attacked with a knife, him and his wife. So I just think maybe that's it. We don't, because here's the thing: we don't really know what this whole attack was about, right? I don't think it was ever disclosed or it came to the bottom of it. We assumed it was for money, but maybe it was political. You never know. And I don't think it was ever made public exactly the reason why he was attacked. So I don't know if that's me wearing a tinfoil hat, but but I think that there's some aspect of just being done with all this. He's obviously focused on his marketing and his career in that regard. But I do you have a better explanation? That just wanting to sit and not play football anymore, I guess, and make some money.
I think you've got a point. It is a touch of the Per Mertesackers when you've done it all. What have you really got to play for? I just think it's a little bit disingenuous of him to sign that new. Who wouldn't? But to sign a new contract for $350,000 a week, but then losing the contract, not losing the contract expiring with Adidas. That's because I sport. I would say I don't support England. I definitely am not cheering on any Spurs, Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea fans for England.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be rough.
I always like Sweden and Germany in the World Cup. I've always loved. Podolski was one of my favourite German players of all time. I'm an Inter Milan fan, so I go back to the Jurgen Klinsmann, the Lothar Matthäus, and Bremer. That's where my love of Germany began back then when they all played for Inter Milan, when you could only have 3 foreign players playing in Italy.
Klinsmann. I thought you didn't support Spurs players.
He didn't play for Spurs then, did he? He went to Spurs after. Oh, I
Yeah,
got out of
true,
that one.
fair, true.
Yeah, and then he only had one season there. But yeah, I do like the Germans. But it must. I mean, you look at it from his point of view. I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, in this time and this day and age, it's not good to speculate on people's mental health issues. But I think that may well be. You're the golden boy of German football. That's gone. You're no longer your Arsenal side that you came to be the linchpin with Sanchez. That's gone. Your team are finishing outside of the top 4 or 5, and you're thinking, God, because he is a level above every other player at the club when he wants to be. And there's only a certain number of times you can get past the ball to someone like Coquelin or Iwobi or Walcott and see them waste it. And then after 3 or 4 years of that, you've got to be thinking, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? It's like you're a world-class chef and you make all this wonderful food and they're eating it with their feet. You look at them and going, why do I bother? What am I doing here? What a waste of time. So I think it's a culmination of all those things, and it must drive you nuts. And plus, he must see what most Arsenal fans think about him. But then again, if your job offered you a 350 grand a week pay rise, you'd be mad not to go. Certainly, I'll have that. Thank you very much. I'll make it a 10-year deal if you want.
Yeah, and I don't think. Look, that could be one aspect of it. I think the other side of the coin is just not necessarily disenfranchised with playing for this team, but disenfranchised in playing in general. I think an aspect of it is, like you said, in the Per Mertesacker effect, that you've won everything. Although I don't think Mertesacker would have ever done what Ozil's done here.
No, he retired instead.
Right. Well, look, I think why retire when you could just earn a huge paycheck? I can kind of understand that. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I rate Ozil as a player. Obviously, he's declined since the time where he was leading Europe in chances created and stuff like that. But it's still weird because this game was one I feel like Ozil would have loved, right? It was this kind of open game in a way, especially in the midfield, that he would be able to kind of exploit those spaces and those half spaces, especially 10, 15 yards from the box. I don't know. It's just a weird situation with Ozil. I think it's a mixture of not, and plus he just had a kid, right? And look at all these aren't really excuses. I'm just trying to like
just trying to find the reason why.
Yeah, I'm trying to put these red strings on the wall, like Pepe Silvia, trying to figure out exactly what's going on with Ozil. But I think it's a Sisyphean task. I don't think it's one that's ever going to be fruitful, because I think that there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. And when Arteta came to this club, and he even was very vocal about Ozil, about how they were friends and that he knows him as a player and he rates him highly. I'm wondering if maybe it's a situation where they've had a heart-to-heart and Arteta maybe empathized with Ozil about his situation. Once again, just kind of guessing here. And it was a mutual understanding. Like, look, I'm done here. I'm just trying to pick up a paycheck. And Arteta would know Ozil well enough. If we know anything about Arteta by this point as a manager, it's certainly evident that he is a great man manager. Willock came out and basically said as much. I don't know. Did you see the quote that Willock had regarding Arteta? Let me see if I can pull it up. It was basically something to the effect of, he's such an incredible man manager. Here,
we have seen that though, haven't we? He's the problem children of the Arsenal squad: Xhaka, Mustafi, Aubameyang to a certain extent, with him not really wanting to stay. Lacazette with he needed a bit of confidence to try and get back into scoring goals, which he has done, and all these other players, and they've got all the team unity. So, like you're saying, you've seen that the manager is someone much like Wenger used to do. Right. Wenger cared a little bit too much, didn't he?
Yeah. So Willock says, and here's the quote: "He's come in, and to be honest, he's nothing short of amazing, really. His detail, the way his man management is with every single player, and we're just all excited to work with him. I'm learning about the games in ways I've never learned from them before." And there's a lot in there, but I think the most important, especially to the Ozil situation, is the man management. Now, you could say that he's failed at that with Ozil if he can't kind of figure it out and make him come around. But you can also make the argument that, look, if Ozil is truly done with the game of football, it's being handled correctly. It's not like Emery, where there was like this, basically went to war with Ozil. Remember that? When it was like his PR team versus Ozil. Ozil's PR team versus Emery.
Come in and dropped him, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then Adidas dropped him. Go on.
First, one of the first things he did was come in and drop Ozil and Ramsey.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about Adidas, but yes,
Yeah.
yeah, no, he did. He dropped them immediately. He tried to kind of, put his, what down on the table,
Mm.
and Ozil called his bluff. His PR team kind of went to war with him, and then that was that. And it was, and then the conversation was, is he really going to try to go against Ozil? He's going to lose there. I think Arteta knows better than to do that. So,
I think
um,
Emery and Ozil both lost that fight.
I think that's actually a great point. I think
Mm-hmm.
they both ended up losing. No one was a winner there, and you know what? We're all not winners there because we have to deal with it, right?
Yeah, true. There's another couple of things to look at as well. If you look at the first of all, what we've had to do because we're so bad at defending, we've had to put an extra man in defence. That means that even Willock isn't getting the before when we're playing four at the back. Willock would be the one playing in the kind of Ozil hole, or Ozil would play there, or occasionally Ceballos would play there. But putting one at the back, that means instantly that position's gone. So that's another reason why Ozil isn't being included, because we're not going to play him in that position. And when we do have Willock will drop down deeper into midfield and pull the strings there. Modern football's moved on. The number 10 is hard. I mean, you look at how far deep that Ceballos will do. He'll run all the way up, all the way back, all the way around everywhere. Ozil's never going to do that game. And you think at the age of 32 this October, you look at the likes players that are roughly similar to Ozil. You've got Hullet, Lothar Matthäus, Gerrard, Scholes, Lampard, all these players that used to be the number 10, well, we all know what a 10 is, and slowly they drift back into central midfield and pull the strings because they couldn't do the running anymore. Ozil hasn't been able to give, I mean, he's 30, coming up to 32. Not sure if that's a little bit early for him to do that, but when you get to 33, 34, 35, that kind of age, that's when those world-class players, because all of those they drop a little bit deeper, and they have people running around them doing the hard work, and they be pulling the strings from there. He's not doing that. He hasn't been given the chance to do that, whether it's because we need the extra player in defence, and even when we had the extra player in defence today, it didn't help, did it? So imagine if the last 3 or 4 games, we'd have played 4 at the back and then had a number 10 playing, we'd have been pulled apart.
Now, I guess the counter argument to that is just that I mean, Ozil has to have enough quality that Arteta could have made it work one way or another. I think we're at the point now where Arteta has shown that he's extremely competent, and whether that continues and whether it's competent enough is something that'll be shown, and you could argue the jury's still out on that. But certainly, you would imagine that a player like Ozil's caliber would be able to slot in somewhere. If you could do it with Eddie and put him on the right wing, he can't figure out where to put Ozil, who was, obviously there's a speed issue there, and maybe the fact that he hasn't played in a while, but. Like I said, that's just the devil's advocate argument to that. But I think that you raised some excellent points, especially with regard to just the nature of the number 10 role in the modern game of football, which is a depleting thing. It's not as relevant, if relevant at all, anymore.
Yes, football's evolving, and you can't afford. It used to be called a luxury player, didn't it? Arsenal started off in the early Wenger days. When Wenger first took over, we were playing 3 at the back, which was left over from the Bruce Rioch era, and then Wenger came in and he carried on with playing the 3 centre backs, and then the next season he started to evolve it, and Bergkamp came in. But for years and years, it's always been big man, little man up front, Alan Smith, Ian Wright, that kind of stuff. And then that's changed as well, because most teams only really have one player up front who's going to score a goal. Like we've said so many times this season, I'd love to see Lacazette and Aubameyang players are 2 up front. If you did that kind of thing, then maybe you could see the best of those 2 at the same time. But even the big man, little man, and the 10, that's all stuff that football tactics are cyclical, whichever word it is like that. And you'll see stuff coming back from years. Yeah, cyclical. You'll see stuff like that coming back. You may see it again in years to come, but it's taken Ozil's career away from him. This season, 23 games, 1 goal. Then I think he's got 2 or 3 assists for a bloke who's 31. That's criminal, isn't it?
Yeah, and you were right about being able to do a whole podcast on it. I'll tell you that. but look, and it was one of those things that I think a lot of people just didn't want to talk about, because that was like the main story for a long time.
Yeah.
It was just Ozil every week, but it kind of hasn't been talked about. Everyone's just kind of been like accepting of the fact that we're just probably never going to see Ozil again, which is kind of a weird. I mean, first of all, we don't know if it's true, but assuming it is, which, to be honest, looks like it might very well be the case. I think it's at least worth a look. I mean, again, against Villa, if any time that you would play Ozil, if he's fit, it would be now, right?
A game where there's no pressure. It doesn't matter. Ozil, go out there, do what you want. It
Right.
doesn't matter. This team are going to be battling for their lives, and if you can go out there and do something, it's a meaningless game. Maybe it would be nice to see him play against Watford, and there's that would be maybe another chance for him to do it. But thinking about other stuff that he's done, when at Real Madrid, he was playing on the left, not a left winger, but the left side of a three, wasn't he? He was playing
And
in
Germany too. He was
yeah.
he was on the wing. He was on the wing in Germany.
So why can't he try that? I mean, Saka could have done with. Well, who played on the left? Saka came on, didn't he? So who was playing? Oh, Aubameyang played on the left, and
Yes.
we had Eddie on the right. So Aubameyang could have gone over. I mean, there's a myriad of options that players could have done. If Ozil and Arteta wanted to, he could have easily played tonight. He could easily play against Watford at the weekend.
Correct.
I wouldn't want him in the FA Cup final. I wouldn't even.
No. But yeah, but that's exactly what I was saying earlier. It's that Arteta has at least shown that he's competent enough that he could make it work if he really wanted to. If we don't see Ozil playing now, logically, I think we can conclude that either Ozil doesn't want to, Ozil can't, or that Arteta doesn't want him to, or Arteta can't. The latter, I don't think is the case. I think that Ozil's quality enough player that if Arteta wanted to play him and he was fit, he could. The fact that he isn't means he's either not fit or he just doesn't want to play football anymore, and Arteta's acquiesced to that.
It's very true, but then he's got one more season on his contract left and 350 grand a week. I mean, the club own his image rights. 18 million pound he's going to earn next season. I don't care how many image rights you own for Ozil. You're not selling 18 million pounds worth of shirts if the bloke doesn't play, are you? Or photos, or signings, or doing bar mitzvahs, weddings, and christenings, and all those things. You're not going to get your 18 million quid back. So they've got to look at that and go, wow. Could they come to some kind of agreement and say, we'll give you 9 million and you can go?
I don't know. That's that, to go back to what we said in the beginning. It is such a weird situation.
Yeah.
It is so bizarre, and it's all speculation. Like you said, you haven't seen anything like this for how long you've been supporting and watching football. It's
36 years.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely ludicrous. It is a conundrum, and I mean, I don't really know exactly what else. You can only guess, right? What's happening? That's it. It's just guesses, because it doesn't make any sense. I try to look at it logically. I try to look at it, based off of what little information we have coming from the club and Ozil's camp about the situation going on here, and it's indecipherable. Like I said, my tinfoil hat idea is just that he doesn't want to play anymore, and that Arteta knows him well enough, seen what happened with Emery when you try to fight him on it, and he spelled out the case for that. You can't make a player want to play again if they've really, really decided that's it, they're done.
Have you ever heard of a player called Winston Bogard?
It's an awesome name.
Have you ever heard of him, though?
I keep thinking of Humphrey Bogart, so
No.
That's what's coming to my head, and I don't know if it sounds familiar because I actually heard that player or because that's what I'm thinking of. So
he's currently 49. He's 20 caps for Holland. He played for Ajax, AC Milan, Barcelona, went to Chelsea in the year 2000, and then he fell out of the manager. And this is what the quote says on Wikipedia. I knew there was something about this. Of his contract, he said, "Why would I throw away 15 million euros when it's already mine? At the moment I signed, it was, in fact, my money, my contract." And then it says, in the end, Bogard played 11 times in 4 years for Chelsea, earning £40,000 a week. He outright said, you don't want to play me? I don't play. And then I'm not leaving because you've given me a 40,000. I wouldn't earn that anywhere else. And so Ozil is pulling a Bogard. Older Premier League fans will know that, because I mean, if that was the year 2000. I mean, how old were you in the year 2000? I mean, I was only 30.
No, I was younger than that, but yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think the confusion comes from this kind of false assumption, or potentially false assumption, that Ozil actually wants to play anymore.
Yeah.
If the player doesn't actually want to play football, then holding him on the bench or saying you're not going to play is not a deterrent. So if you're happy to just not play football anymore and sit and collect money, I guess you're pulling a Bogart.
That's it. And I mean, he joined Chelsea at 30, retired at 34 after playing 9 Premier League games. Sort of, thank you very much and good night, as he would say. Yeah, why not? He's earned it. He signed the contract. Why would you turn it down? Nobody in their right mind would. There again, there was, going back to old football history, there was the captain of Atletico Madrid. They won the La Liga title in the early noughties. Then they got relegated a couple of seasons later, and he said, "As captain, this is roughly what he said. Captain, this is my fault. You will pay me €1 a week until we get promoted again." And 2 seasons later, they got promoted. That's you don't ever see that in football. That's the only occasion I know where a player has said, "No, I don't want any money."
Yeah.
The opposite.
Yeah. Look, it is a conundrum. I don't think we're going to be able to solve it in this podcast, but I think that we definitely at least kind of parsed out some theories, because that's I think that all you can have right now is just theories. But it'll be interesting to see whether he plays against Watford. I doubt it. I wonder if he'll ever play again for the club, to be honest.
I don't think he will.
I don't think he will either. And that's kind of a shame, because I think that when you look at his overarching impact that he's had on Arsenal, it's, you can say he didn't do much, but he really did. I mean, this was the biggest signing that we had in years. He comes in, helps us win an FA Cup, helps us win multiple FA Cups, and really sets a benchmark for us signing big players at a time where everyone was kind of saying Arsenal are never going to do that again, right? We had sold RVP a while back, and we hadn't made any big name signings, and all of a sudden deadline day, Ozil comes around. It's this huge revelation. Everyone's super excited. It kind of reinvigorates the fans. Then shortly after we win our first trophy in decade, it's important. It's important, and it allowed us to bring other players. How many players do we that signed mentioned that they came and were happy to play alongside Ozil? That was like a big draw for them. He's a huge talent in football, arguably not anymore, but it's something that is going to be sad if his legacy at Arsenal, which I think it is now, is this saga of the last 3 seasons.
No, you're right. He was the marquee player in 13-14, 14-15. It was Sanchez. 15-16 should have had another world-class player. We got Czech. And then after that point, you think, well, hold on, we've got 2 players that play regularly that are world-class players. And after that, there was no, I mean, how many at the club now have we got that are world-class players that are actually ready? Aubameyang. And
I would argue Leno.
Yeah, well, yeah, Leno's really good, but he's not going to get many assists for Leno, is he? If he plays, we should have built the club around him. And
and I think that was the goal originally, right?
And it's all Petr Cech's fault.
When we signed Petr Cech, we didn't sign a single outfielder that window, did we?
I think we didn't spend much money on anybody that season. No.
I think we only bought Petr Cech during that window. I don't think we bought it. We were the only. I remember a stat floating around that we were the only club in Europe to not get an outfielder in the season. Definitely the only one in the Premier League. I might be wrong on that. Someone can fact check. Someone can fact check me.
Jeffrey Adley, Yassine Fortune, Vlad Dragomir, Jose Usi Tutu, Donyal Malen, Ismail Benakatem. Oh, here we go. You were wrong. Mohamed El Neni. We bought him in January of that season.
Oh, okay, I'll give you Mohamed El Neni.
So yeah, you're right.
I stand absolutely corrected.
You were right.
No, but look, the reality is that if we're actually going to be trying to build a squad that's going to challenge for the league, and you sign Petr Cech, not thinking that Ozil and Sanchez is enough, which there could be an argument for. Clearly, not enough was done, especially to build the club. If that was the goal, it failed miserably.
And also, you look at the fact that summer Podolski was sold to Galatasaray. And Podolski, for me, was criminally wrongly used by Arsenal. And they'd have been mates. I mean, the German internationals together. We had a little German hub at the club. And little things like that. Ozil must have looked at it and gone, I could do wonders with this bloke. Have you not seen me and him play for Germany together?
Yeah. You know what I used to analogize it to? Ozil was kind of like a really nice set of rims on a car, right? So like if you have a real nice car, right? Like a Range Rover, nice Mercedes, or Bentley or something, you put those rims and it's like, yeah, it makes it even better. But if you have like an old broken down hoopty Honda Civic, like it doesn't matter how nice are the rims on there, it's still going to be a piece of crap. And I think that Arsenal kind of suffered from that broken down hoopty scenario where, yes, during his peak, he created the most chances in Europe for the team. And like we just couldn't put them away. He was feeding them to Giroud, who went, and look, I like Giroud, but he went in that one season, which arguably we could have won the league. He went like 16 games without scoring a goal.
Yeah.
That as yeah. Oh,
I mean, how many times must Ozil have gone back in the dressing room after that and had to bite his lip and not say anything? And then you look at the next season. I remember doing podcasts at the time, and Arsenal were known that we had maybe £150 million in the bank the season we bought Czech. And Steve, God rest his soul, used to say, this is going to bite us on the arse because the players you could have bought the Czech season for £100 million are not the same players. That £100 million will get you bugger all the next season, and the
right.
next season 30 million on Xhaka, 35 million on Mustafi, and we've got Lucas Perez. None of those are going to make Ozil shine. He's not going to make any of those look great. I mean, I liked Lucas Perez. He was a decent player. He was the last player for us to score a hat-trick in the Champions League, I think. But again, not building on having Sanchez and Ozil there. And that's when then Sanchez goes, well, I'm off. And then Ozil's going, well, thank you very much. I'm on a desert island on my own with a load of blokes who don't even know which direction to kick the ball. Ridiculous.
Yeah. And looking forward now, because I think that we did just do an entire podcast on Ozil, which is great, because I think that, I think it's been a while since we've actually kind of sat back and examined what the heck's going on with Ozil. And as we said earlier, this is probably the match that he would come on if this one or Watford if he were fit. So I think it's worth at least talking about and going down memory lane for better or worse, I guess, in that regard. But looking ahead now, obviously we have Watford coming up, and then we have an FA Cup final.
Yes.
And when you look at who we're playing and then who Chelsea we're playing, we play Villa and Watford leading up to the final. That's all we got, right?
Yeah.
Chelsea play Liverpool away, and then Wolves, and a week later they have a knockout Champions League round against Bayern Munich.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Now, if Chelsea are looking at this, I just want to make sure it is the week, because I believe it is.
Yes, 7 days. Exactly 7 days later.
Exactly a week later, they're playing Bayern Munich in the Champions League knockout rounds. If you're Chelsea, are you focusing on this FA Cup more than the Champions League?
No, because what does the FA Cup get you? Maybe a few million in the Europa League spot. I mean, it looks like they're going to finish top four anyway. And the money spinners against Bayern Munich, that's the quarterfinal, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you're looking at the semi-final, and we've seen before, this is a very average Chelsea team. The last time Chelsea had an average team, they won the Champions League.
I think it's just a round of 16. Yeah. So it is.
Yes. So they've got to be looking at that Bayern Munich game. I mean, Bayern's season is over already. They've won the league, haven't they? And I think even the German season might even be over by now. I think it might be. So, but they're going to be thinking about that. I mean, what a run-in for those. Liverpool, Wolves are going to come and try and terrorise them because they want to finish as high up as possible. Us in the FA Cup final, when like Villa, this is the only thing we got to play for the rest of the season. And then a week later, Bayern Munich. Frank Lampard's going to be thinking, well, I need a lot more players than what I've got.
Right. So it's kind of a weird situation for Lampard here, because he's in a cup final. It's like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush kind of a situation, right? Is he going to approach it that way? Well, I don't know. I think that if it's hard, because this is all we've got for the season, but it's not all Chelsea's got, and it's coming up really, really fast. They could, in theory, be champions of Europe at the end of this campaign, and that's not something that Lampard can just ignore. And I would imagine that he would have to focus on that. But like I said, it might be a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush kind of a mentality that he takes.
Possibly. I'm just looking. The German Bundesliga finished on the 27th of June, so they'd have had a 4 or 5 week rest, plus they won the league by 13 points. So add another couple of weeks on top of that, because they'd won it with so much clear. Bayern are going to be ready, and they are going to be in tip-top condition, raring to go. And Chelsea are going to be breathing out their arse by the time they get there, because they've had a hell of a run into their season. So, yeah. I mean, that's why out of the three teams that we could have met in the final, would you have picked Chelsea to play in the final?
I would have picked Chelsea, and I hope those words don't come back to bite me. But luckily, I don't really subscribe to that. I think that the universe works in its own way, and I'm still going to knock on wood, though.
Yeah, so I mean, you could see that they do have the ability to change the way they play. They lump the ball up against Man United to Giroud and play that way, and then that's why I was surprised Pulisic didn't start because he's a hell of a player. But I think against us, I don't think Giroud will start against us. They'll want to play someone like Pulisic and Pedro, and I don't know. I know they've got a few injuries as well. Pedro's been out injured. Willian at the set pieces. They got some real good, creative young players in there and other decent players. So it's going to be a hard game. But when you've got the Champions League game a week later, you've really got to be thinking about that. Will the Chelsea players have their flip flops on and be thinking about being
and that's kind of that is exactly what my next question was going to be, in exactly the way you phrased it too, because you had mentioned Arsenal having its flip flops on for this final, which for this Aston Villa game, which is the case because all we got is the FA Cup, right? That's our shot. Like, this game didn't mean anything, but that means everything. The Chelsea is not going to be going into the final with that mentality because it's not. They still have the Champions League. So I think that's good for us. I think it's good for us because we are the Aston Villa in that situation.
True.
That we are fighting for our lives to stay in Europe, and they're just trying to, they are fighting to get a trophy, but really, fighting for their lives to stay fit, win a game, but also in the back of their heads, they're going to be thinking, I don't want to get injured for the Champions League.
Plus, there's no love lost between Chelsea and Liverpool, is there? And I'm just looking at the injuries. It says Kante isn't going to be back until the 26th of July at the soonest. Van Ginkel doesn't matter. Gilmore doesn't matter. So they've only really got one player out, but they're
July or August.
I didn't know.
When's Kante coming back?
Hold on. Reopen, close tab. Click on Chelsea. 26th of July.
Okay.
Potential return.
So Sunday.
Yeah. So there's hopefully there'll be a lot of injuries between Liverpool and Chelsea at the week tomorrow night, and then Wolves will turn them inside out and maybe injure another couple of their players, because that's a lot of tough. Liverpool playing on the break, Wolves rely on playing on the break with speedy wingers, and Chelsea can be knackered by the time they get to play us.
Yeah, exactly. And, if we are just taking it easy, it might be the right approach. Obviously, there's something to be said about gaining momentum, which clearly is kind of a non-issue at this point because that's gone. So now let's just focus on resting up against Watford, I would even say, and letting players make sure that, making sure players don't get injured. That's, I think, the key for Arteta right now. But
you look at Chelsea in the league, 63 points, Leicester 62, Man United 62. They're not going to want to, if you finish fourth, you've got the Champions League qualifying, haven't you? And then if they manage to finish fifth, Man United, who have Man United got? They're away at Man United and Leicester are playing each other. If they both get a draw, they've got much. They've both got plus 28 and Chelsea are plus 15. So they could both draw that game and both go ahead of Chelsea if Chelsea don't get at least a point from the next two games, which against Wolves and Liverpool, it's not going to be easy, is it?
No, it's not. So let's see. It should be interesting to see. I think that there's a lot of interesting dynamics going on towards the end of the season, which is very exciting. So hopefully that the games kind of reflect that. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, kind of non-related. The only reason I bring this up, I really don't want to, but the only reason I bring it up is because I was tagged on a post on Twitter. Apparently, someone had flown a plane, a banner.
Yes.
Did you hear about this over Villa Park?
Yeah.
It said like it was almost a non sequitur what it was saying.
Pointless.
It was a non sequitur. It said, first of all, the TV didn't even cover it, which is kind of
hilarious.
You
could hear it. You couldn't see it.
You could hear the plane flying around. Yeah, and it said like back Arteta, Kroenke out, or something like that, right? Which two of those things can't exist simultaneously.
Yeah.
And if you want one, you can't have the other. You can't like kick someone out and then be like, well, you need to support Arteta, unless you're kicking him out for supporting him. It just didn't make any sense. It was a non sequitur, and I got drawn into it, which is just, I don't want to. You could do whatever you want and say whatever you want. I'm a firm believer in that, but you got to accept the ramifications of saying certain things, right? Or doing certain things. I mean, I can't imagine a more inopportune time. We just got into a FA Cup final. There hasn't been an opportunity to back Arteta yet. What are you doing?
Well, I did a tweet. I put, what fan doesn't back Arteta, and what Arsenal fan doesn't want Kroenke out? I'd say 0% and maybe 10%. Everybody backs Arteta, and maybe 10% of the Arsenal fans don't want Kroenke out. Waste of time, waste of money, waste of banners.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And look, that was like, I heard it was like £1,700 that they used to pay for that, which could have gone to a charity or could have gone to, you know what I mean? Like there was so much more that you could have done with that money than fly a banner that doesn't even make any sense. But
You could have hired
look,
Ozil for a weekend.
yeah, for your bar mitzvah.
That's it.
Yeah, no, look,
It's
like I said,
the stupidity, isn't it, of some Arsenal fans? So
yeah,
we've got our fair share of morons.
yeah, and I don't want to look. I think that I hold my own fair share of stupid opinions, right? And I'll be the first to admit that. But I try not to be as strident about it. You know, I try to be a little bit more reserved, and then I'm certainly not going to have a GoFundMe page for my dumb ideas. But and you know, I said I didn't want to be, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but you have to accept the ramifications, I think, a little bit of when you do make a public statement like that. And that's kind of we have enough as Arsenal fans to deal with without now having to defend against that banner flying over. There's almost like a pride aspect of it.
I'd like to say to the person, so how many Arsenal fans do you know that don't back Arteta? Or did you mean Kroenke back Arteta or Kroenke out? Well, if you did mean that, you worded it wrongly.
Right.
Maybe you should have done some flyers or something and dropped the flyers over the stadium or to no one there.
Or just have like a second plane with like parentheses going, by the way, what we really mean is that if they don't back him, because we know that he hasn't had an opportunity to be backed yet, if they don't back him, then we think it's time to go.
Well, that'd be on about 10 planes, 17.
Yeah, but they have this long explanation though. But that's what you need, because it's just clearly the message is so garbled that you shot yourself in the foot there.
Well, you could have had Kroenke. If you don't back Arteta, then get out. Even that's too long, isn't it?
Or no, Kroenke out if Arteta not backed. There you go. Concise. Yeah. That's your point. Fine. I don't think
you bring in logic into this. How dare you?
I know. It's a gift and a curse. It's a gift and a curse. I'll tell you what though. I think like you said, most people would support that. It's almost so obvious though that you don't need to put it on a banner.
Yeah.
It's
don't eat yellow snow.
Yeah. As Frank Zappa said famously. Look, here's the thing. It's like putting, like, I don't know. I can't. I'm trying to like really put my mindset.
Stupid.
I can't. I'm trying to think that way, but I really can't get. And then not only that, to like look what we've done. We've really helped. This is something that's a good idea that we've all agreed.
There's no one even in the stadium to see it or outside.
I know, and they didn't even show it on TV either. Like someone had to like take a picture of it. Anyway, like I said, believe whatever you want. You could say whatever you want. You could do almost whatever you want, as long as it's not hurting anyone else. But you're going to get ridiculed if it's able to be ridiculed. You're going to get ridiculed, especially on football Twitter, especially by Arsenal fans, especially by rival fans. So, not very well thought out.
True.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's a good enough place as any to leave it. I guess the only thing I will want to say is that I will be on your podcast coming up this week.
True. Yes, this Thursday with Sophie. We're having an East Coast, West Coast battle.
So if people don't know about a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast, which I don't know if they've been living under a rock for a while, maybe they're new fans. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's the AFC podcast. Don't know how we managed to get that on the Twitter username of that. We got that in June 2013. We do a live show after every Arsenal match. Tonight's one was the shortest one ever. It was Jason Ellis and Richard, and it lasted about 30 minutes before we went to questions. Sometimes they go on for 2 hours, and we do a podcast every midweek sometime. This time of year, it's been really hard to know what day to do it on. And it's usually we always do it live on YouTube, have an interactive chat. and people in the chat box, and we're very, very forgiving with what you can say, almost whatever you want. And in this modern day and age, where you will get banned from live chats for the slightest little thing, we don't do any of that. As long as you're not an arse, we let you away with most things. As you will see on Thursday, John, we have it's quite fruity in there at times, but it's always good. It's always good mannered, and there's usually, I think, we maybe expect 50 or 60 people on the post-match ones. I think for the Man City one, we had about 500 people in there, which was absolutely amazing. So it's very similar to what all the other Arsenal podcasts do, like Tom does, Same Old Arsenal, Harry does with the Chronicles of a Gooner, and there's lots of other little podcasts that have started up. And the Arsenal podcast world at the moment is brilliant. Everyone goes on each other's shows, and everyone all gets on, which is always fun. It's nice. Been sharing the grief for years now. We're finally sharing a little bit of glory.
Yeah. Look, you guys started in what, 2013, right?
Yeah, before that we were the Steve's Bald, BALD collective, and Steve owned that, and me and Gimli were on there with him. And then we decided to leave and go and set up our own one sometime in about May 2013. So we've done, I think on YouTube, we've got 750 shows on there.
Wow. Yeah. See, I remember it was you and like Arsblog, like
Yeah.
those are the podcasts I was listening to. I actually started this podcast, believe it or not, in 2015. It was 5 years ago when I
Wow.
started this podcast.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
used to listen quite a lot, and then you had a little bit of a sabbatical.
I had a little bit of sabbatical, but thanks to peer pressure from Tom and Mike over there,
Yeah,
I got back, and I'm happy I did, because it's certainly look,
it's a good
it,
time to be back.
it is. It was. I just couldn't be arsed before, to be honest, to put it.
Yeah, I had a few of those occasions. Whoever
Yeah.
draw the straw will be doing the shows.
Yeah. So if people want to find you, particularly if you want them to online, where can they find you?
Yeah.
What about your podcast? Let's put it that way.
The pod, just go to go to Yahoo, go to Ask Jeeves and type in Bergkamp Wonderland, and that's all you need to type in. It'll bring up our Twitter, our YouTube, our OnlyFans, our Spotify, our AA Cast, all those other wonderful places. We're not on Grindr anymore. We got kicked off, and any of those other ones. We're everywhere. The only one we haven't got is TikTok. Whenever a new app came out, the first thing I do is go and sign up for it. And I've got so many, and I've lost track of. So we get so many emails, just don't bother anymore. So if anyone wants to go and set up a Bergkamp Wonderland TikTok, you're more than welcome.
Do you actually have an OnlyFans?
No, I should. Me and Mike are going to get together and do the Goodness OnlyFans, just us two in the bath.
Yeah, that's that.
We sell the water.
Yeah, on that beautiful imagery. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It is wonderful, and I've tried to get you to come back on ours a few times over the last couple of years, and you've been busy doing other stuff and taking your time off. So it's good that you're back at doing it, because it's those dulcet Miami tones. I think everyone needs a little bit of John in their life.
Well, I absolutely believe that.
Good. Cheers.
Cheers. And we're done. Another episode of 305 Cast, the Arsenal Miami podcast, is in the bag. I want to thank my guest again, Danny from a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast, from coming on. Great conversation we had. Always a fun time to talk to him. So if you want to go follow him, you could just look up a Bergkamp Wonderland. I think he said you could find it using Jeeves or Ask Jeeves or Yahoo. Didn't even know those things were up. And apparently, if you believe what he said, OnlyFans soon coming with him and Mike, I guess. Some important stuff to look forward to there. And we have some important stuff to look forward to. Probably not Watford as much, but definitely an FA Cup final. And let's just hope we actually put in a performance. There's no excuse because we played like crap. So there's that. It was hard to even go into specific players. I almost didn't want to because, look, it was a situation that we were in, right, where we had nothing to play for. Like I said in the beginning, they had everything to play for. I'm just going to chalk it up to that. I think that's what Arteta's probably doing. I think that's what the players are probably doing. And I think that we can't dwell on that. We need to look forward, try to get something against Watford if we can, but make sure that we're all fit for the FA Cup final against Chelsea. Chelsea have Liverpool away. They have Wolves. They have us. And then they have a Champions League match against Bayern away. So I don't know if, like I mentioned on the podcast, it's going to be a situation of it being a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush for Lampard, and he's going to want to just get that trophy because it would mean a lot to him too as a young manager. But something tells me that we're going to be fighting a little harder for it, knock on wood. And the only reason I say that is because this is all we got, right? There's nothing after this. If we lose this, we're out of Europe and we don't have a trophy. If they're out of this, they still have top 4 chances and they still have chances to win the Champions League technically. So let's see. Hopefully Arteta can get everyone up for it, and hopefully we can get a result from this against Watford, rather, because it would be hilarious to see Troy Deeney get relegated with Watford. One of my good friends is a Watford fan, so I feel a little bit bad about that, but just watching Troy Deeney and his massive cojones get sent to the championship would be extremely enjoyable. We can only hope, right? Anyway, that's all I got for today. I want to thank you all for listening. If you get a chance, if you're listening on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to us and like, comment, whatever, all that fun stuff. If you're listening on iTunes, don't forget to rate us. It's very important. It helps us out. And go listen to a bunch of other good podcasts out there. Tom Canton's podcast, Gooner Talk, is amazing. Mike, the Gooners Pod, that's a good one. Him and Andy, I'll always plug them because I think they have great content. And it's definitely a unique approach to podcasting in Arsenal, which is refreshing nowadays. So go check them out if you get a chance, and like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Cheers.